Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Some gifts don't announce themselves with noise. They reveal themselves in silence, when everyone else is too distracted to notice. What if the greatest spiritual gifts aren't the ones that make people famous, but the ones that make them impossible to fool? Think about it. Throughout history, some of the wisest people weren't the loudest voices in the room. They were the quiet observers, the ones who seemed to sense trouble before it arrived, walk away from the wrong people without a dramatic explanation, and remain calm while everyone else was losing control. Modern psychology even suggests that people who spend more time in deep reflection often notice patterns and subtle social cues that others completely miss. Now, does that mean every quiet person is a Sigma? Of course not. If that were true, every teenager hiding in their room would be a spiritual master, and we both know some of them are just avoiding chores. But there is something undeniably different about certain people. They don't simply think differently. They move through life differently. They seem guided by an inner compass that values truth over popularity, peace over attention, and purpose over applause. Their greatest strengths aren't always visible, yet they quietly shape every decision they make. So what are these unusual spiritual gifts? Are they blessings people are born with, or qualities forged through life's toughest battles? And why do these gifts often come with loneliness, misunderstanding, and seasons of isolation? Stay with me, because today's video explores 12 extraordinary spiritual gifts that many believe Sigmas naturally possess. Some of these may surprise you, some may challenge what you thought you knew, and one or two might explain parts of your own life that have never quite made sense. Number 1. They instantly feel the weight of a person. One of the rarest spiritual gifts many Sigmas seem to possess is the ability to sense the invisible weight that people carry. It has nothing to do with judging appearances, reading body language like a detective, or making quick assumptions. Instead, it's an unexplainable feeling that quietly tells them whether someone brings peace or chaos into a room. This is why Sigmas often trust their first impression more than a long explanation. They may meet someone who says all the right things, smiles at the right moments, and appears kind, yet something deep inside refuses to settle. They don't always know why. They simply feel that something doesn't match. More often than not, time proves that feeling right. What's fascinating is that this gift works both ways. They can also sense people whose hearts are genuine, even if those people are awkward, quiet, or misunderstood by everyone else. While others get distracted by confidence, popularity, or charm, Sigmas are naturally drawn to sincerity. They pay attention to what a person's presence leaves behind, rather than the performance they put on. That is why they rarely collect large circles of friends. They would rather keep the company of a few people whose presence feels light than surround themselves with individuals who leave them mentally exhausted. To many, this seems antisocial. In reality, they are protecting something far more valuable than their time. They are protecting their inner peace. This gift isn't about being psychic or believing you're always right. Even Sigmas can misread people. The difference is that they don't ignore the quiet warnings they feel inside. Instead of arguing with that inner sense, they observe, wait, and let people's actions reveal the truth. Eventually, masks fall, motives become clear, and the weight they sensed from the beginning finally becomes visible to everyone else. Number 2, they inherit the gift of invisible timing. One of the most unusual spiritual gifts many Sigmas seem to carry is a deep connection with timing. Their lives rarely unfold according to the schedule that other people expect. While others race to achieve success as quickly as possible, Sigmas often experience long seasons where nothing appears to be happening. Opportunities stay out of reach, recognition takes forever, and progress feels painfully slow. To everyone watching, it may look like they're falling behind, but beneath that quiet surface, something important is taking shape. Those slow seasons often become the very moments that build patience, wisdom, emotional strength, and self-control. By the time an opportunity finally arrives, the Sigma is no longer the same person who first wished for it. They have grown into someone who can actually handle it. This is why their biggest breakthroughs often seem to come out of nowhere. One conversation changes everything. One decision opens several new doors. One unexpected opportunity makes years of waiting suddenly make sense. People call it luck because they only notice the outcome. They never see the years of silent preparation that came before it. The Sigma eventually stops comparing their timeline to everyone else's. They understand that rushing into the wrong season can cost more than waiting for the right one. Instead of forcing life to move faster, they keep learning, improving, and trusting that what truly belongs to them will arrive when they are ready to carry it. To many people, that kind of patience looks unusual. To the Sigma, it becomes one of the greatest sources of peace because they know that delayed does not always mean denied. Number 3, they naturally expose hidden agendas. One of the most remarkable spiritual gifts many Sigmas seem to have is the ability to expose hidden agendas without even trying. They don't set out to uncover lies or test people's intentions. It simply happens because they refuse to play along with games that depend on emotional reactions. Manipulative people usually thrive on predictable responses. They expect praise to win your loyalty, guilt to control your decisions, or fear to keep you quiet. But Sigmas often respond with calm observation instead of immediate emotion. That unexpected response disrupts the entire strategy. What's even more interesting is that Sigmas don't rush to accuse anyone. They don't waste energy trying to prove someone is fake. They simply watch. They notice when stories change, when actions don't match words, and when kindness only appears when there's something to gain. While others are impressed by charm, Sigmas are paying attention to consistency. This quiet approach often makes dishonest people uncomfortable. They may begin talking too much, defending themselves before being questioned, or revealing information nobody asked for. In trying so hard to appear trustworthy, they end up exposing the very motives they wanted to hide. The Sigma understands that truth doesn't always need to be chased. Given enough time, it has a way of introducing itself. That's why they rarely feel pressured to make quick judgments or dramatic confrontations. They trust that character cannot stay hidden forever. Eventually, every mask becomes too heavy to wear, and every hidden agenda reveals itself through repeated actions. The Sigma simply has the patience to wait until that moment arrives. Number 4, they can sit inside silence without panicking. Silence makes many people uncomfortable. The moment everything becomes quiet, they reach for their phone, turn on the television, or look for someone to talk to. They need constant noise because silence forces them to face thoughts they've been avoiding. But for many Sigmas, silence isn't something to escape. It's a place where they become stronger. This is one of their most overlooked spiritual gifts. They don't depend on constant entertainment or endless conversations to feel alive. When the world becomes quiet, their mind becomes clear. They begin to notice things they missed in the middle of life's distractions. Answers surface, emotions settle, and decisions become easier because there is no pressure to react. That doesn't mean they enjoy being lonely or never struggle. It means they have learned that silence can heal what noise often hides. Instead of fearing their own thoughts, they listen to them. Instead of running from uncomfortable questions, they face them with honesty. This ability also gives Sigmas an advantage that many people don't realize. Because they spend time reflecting, they are less likely to be controlled by impulse, gossip, or emotional pressure. They don't feel the need to fill every quiet moment with words. They understand that wisdom often grows in places where nobody is talking. Over time, silence becomes more than a habit. It becomes a source of strength. While others search outside themselves for clarity, the Sigma discovers that some of life's greatest lessons are found in moments when nothing is demanding their attention. In a noisy world, their ability to remain comfortable in silence becomes a rare gift that keeps them grounded, focused, and deeply connected to what truly matters. Number 5. They carry an unexplained, do not disturb energy. Some people command respect by being loud, demanding, or intimidating. Sigmas often do the exact opposite. They don't raise their voice, seek attention, or try to prove how strong they are. Yet there is something about them that quietly tells people, "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness." This presence isn't built on fear. It's built on self-respect. Sigmas don't constantly explain themselves, beg for acceptance, or chase people who don't value them. They know where their boundaries are, and that confidence creates an invisible line that many people hesitate to cross. What's interesting is that people can sense this before a single boundary is ever spoken. Those who enjoy controlling others often realize they won't get very far with a Sigma. The usual tricks, guilt, pressure, emotional games, or empty promises don't have the effect they were hoping for. The Sigma's calm response makes manipulation feel useless. Even people who have just met them often become more mindful of what they say and how they behave. Not because the Sigma demands it, but because their quiet confidence naturally changes the atmosphere. They don't compete for respect. They carry themselves in a way that earns it. This doesn't mean everyone likes them. In fact, some people find their calm nature frustrating because it can't easily be influenced. But that's exactly what makes this gift so powerful. The Sigma teaches others that true strength doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes the strongest presence in the room is the person who says the least, stands by their values without compromise, and protects their peace without needing anyone's permission. Number 6. They attract confessions they never asked for. One of the most surprising spiritual gifts many Sigmas seem to have is that people often tell them things they have never told anyone else. It happens without effort. The Sigma isn't asking deeply personal questions or trying to become someone's therapist. Yet, before long, people begin sharing painful memories, hidden regrets, guilty secrets, and struggles they have carried for years. What creates this unusual response is the Sigma's presence. They listen without rushing to judge, interrupt, or turn the conversation back to themselves. In a world where many people are simply waiting for their turn to speak, the Sigma makes others feel genuinely heard. That alone can unlock doors people have kept closed for a very long time. Even those who usually hide behind confidence or humor sometimes let their guard down. They sense they don't have to perform or pretend. For a brief moment, they feel safe enough to be honest. The Sigma understands that these confessions are not invitations to gossip or opportunities to gain power over someone. They treat them as acts of trust. They know that a secret shared in a vulnerable moment is not a weapon to use later, but a responsibility to protect. Ironically, this gift can also become emotionally heavy. Carrying other people's stories isn't always easy. That's why wise Sigmas learn an important lesson. They can be a place where people find relief without carrying every burden as their own. They offer understanding, not ownership. In doing so, they become a quiet source of healing, reminding others that sometimes the greatest gift isn't having all the answers. It's creating a space where truth finally feels safe enough to speak. Number 7. They can sense when a chapter has spiritually ended. One of the most fascinating spiritual gifts many Sigmas possess is knowing when it's time to let go, even before there is visible proof. While everyone else is holding on, hoping things will somehow return to the way they were, the Sigma begins to feel a quiet shift deep within. It isn't based on fear, impatience, or a bad mood. It's a growing sense that a season has reached its natural end. This feeling often appears long before a friendship falls apart, a career changes, or a relationship officially ends. The conversations may still sound normal. Life may still look stable on the outside, but inwardly, the Sigma knows something has changed. The peace that once existed is gone, and forcing things to continue only creates more resistance. Instead of clinging to what is fading, they begin preparing themselves for what comes next. They reflect, they grow, and they slowly loosen their emotional grip. This is why people are often shocked by how calmly a Sigma walks away when the final moment arrives. What looks sudden to everyone else has actually been a quiet process unfolding for weeks, months, or even years. The Sigma understands a truth that many people struggle to accept. Not everything is meant to last forever. Some people are lessons, some places are temporary, some opportunities complete their purpose and quietly fade away. Rather than seeing every ending as a failure, they see it as part of spiritual growth. They trust that holding on to a closed chapter only delays the beginning of a new one, and that willingness to release what no longer belongs is what allows them to keep moving forward with clarity instead of regret. Number 8. They cannot stay where their soul stops growing. One of the clearest spiritual gifts many Sigmas carry is the inability to remain in places that no longer help them grow. They may stay longer than they should out of loyalty, hope, or commitment, but eventually something deep inside begins to resist. It isn't because they are restless or impossible to satisfy. It's because their spirit recognizes when growth has been replaced by comfort. This is why Sigmas sometimes walk away from situations that others would never leave. A secure job, a familiar relationship, or a respected position may look perfect from the outside, but if it no longer challenges them to become wiser, stronger, or more authentic, it slowly starts to feel like a cage instead of a blessing. Many people misunderstand this decision. They assume the Sigma is ungrateful or constantly chasing something better. The truth is far different. Sigmas aren't addicted to change, they're committed to growth. They know that staying in the wrong environment for too long can quietly drain passion, dull purpose, and slowly reshape them into someone they were never meant to become. That's why they are willing to face uncertainty rather than settle for a life that feels spiritually empty. They would rather step into an unfamiliar path with purpose than remain in a comfortable place that slowly steals their sense of direction. This gift requires courage, because growth almost always demands sacrifice. It asks them to leave behind what is familiar before they can fully see what lies ahead. Yet time and again, they discover that every meaningful season of growth begins the moment they stop clinging to what has already finished teaching them. Number 9. They detect artificial energy faster than artificial intelligence. One of the most extraordinary spiritual gifts many Sigmas seem to possess is the ability to recognize what isn't real. They may not always have evidence, and they don't claim to know everything, but they often notice when someone's behavior feels rehearsed instead of genuine. While others are impressed by polished words and confident appearances, the Sigma pays attention to something deeper, whether a person's character stays the same when no one is watching. This is why they are rarely fooled by charm alone. They understand that anyone can sound wise, generous, or humble for a few minutes. The real test is consistency. Does that person's attitude change depending on who is in the room? Do their actions match the values they speak about? These are the questions the Sigma quietly answers without needing to ask them out loud. Because of this, people who live behind carefully crafted images often feel uneasy around Sigmas. It's not because the Sigma is exposing them publicly. It's because pretending becomes exhausting when someone isn't easily impressed by appearances. This gift also protects the Sigma from chasing empty promises. They know that truth has a natural rhythm while deception constantly needs maintenance. Fake kindness eventually slips. Forced confidence eventually cracks. Manufactured loyalty eventually reveals its conditions. The Sigma doesn't need to win arguments or prove someone is false. They simply give people enough time to reveal who they really are. In the end, they trust that authenticity always outlasts performance, and that what is real never has to work so hard to convince others that it is. Number 10. They rarely need closure. One of the most liberating spiritual gifts many Sigmas develop is the ability to move forward without needing every question answered. Most people believe healing begins when they finally receive an explanation, an apology, or one last conversation. Sigmas eventually discover something different. They realize that waiting for closure often means placing their peace in someone else's hands. Life doesn't always provide neat endings. Some friendships disappear without warning. Some relationships end with unanswered questions. Some betrayals never come with an admission of guilt, while many people remain trapped, hoping for a final explanation that may never arrive. The Sigma makes a quiet decision to stop waiting. This doesn't mean they stop caring or pretend nothing happened. It means they refuse to let another person's silence control the rest of their life. They accept that not every mystery will be solved, and that not every wound will receive the apology it deserves. There is a quiet strength in that mindset. Instead of chasing people for answers, they invest their energy in becoming wiser from the experience. They understand that dwelling on the past cannot change it, but learning from it can shape a better future. Ironically, the closure they were searching for often arrives after they have already moved on. It comes through clearer thinking, emotional peace, and the realization that some people answered every question through their actions, even if they never spoke another word. The Sigma learns that freedom doesn't always come from knowing everything. Sometimes it comes from accepting that enough has already been revealed to confidently close the door and keep walking forward. Number 11. They possess an internal noise filter. One of the most underrated spiritual gifts many Sigmas possess is the ability to separate what matters from what merely demands attention. In a world overflowing with opinions, trends, headlines, and constant distractions, they don't feel obligated to react to everything. While others become exhausted trying to keep up with every new controversy or popular belief, the Sigma quietly asks one question: does this actually deserve my energy? That simple habit changes everything. Sigmas understand that not every opinion deserves a response, not every invitation deserves a yes, and not every battle deserves to be fought. They have learned that attention is one of life's most valuable resources, and once it's wasted on meaningless noise, it cannot be recovered. This is why they often appear calm when everyone else seems overwhelmed. They don't absorb every rumor they hear or allow every emotional storm to pull them in. Instead, they focus on what produces real growth, genuine peace, and lasting wisdom. Their minds aren't empty. They're simply uncluttered. People sometimes mistake this for indifference. They assume the Sigma doesn't care. The truth is exactly the opposite. They care so deeply about what truly matters that they refuse to let insignificant distractions steal their focus. Over time, this inner filter becomes one of their greatest strengths. It protects them from unnecessary drama, emotional manipulation, and the endless pressure to have an opinion about everything. While the world grows louder each day, the Sigma becomes wiser by listening less to the noise and more to the quiet voice of discernment within. That is where their clearest decisions are born. Number 12. Their presence quietly changes the atmosphere. One of the most extraordinary spiritual gifts many Sigmas seem to carry has nothing to do with what they say. It has everything to do with what happens when they simply show up. There are people whose presence fills a room with noise, and then there are people whose presence changes the entire atmosphere without making a sound. The Sigma often belongs to the second group. They don't chase attention or try to become the center of every conversation. Yet something subtle begins to shift around them. Loud voices soften. Fake confidence becomes harder to maintain. Meaningless conversations lose their appeal, while genuine discussions seem to happen naturally. It's as though their calmness quietly invites everyone else to drop the mask they were wearing. This isn't because the Sigma possesses some mysterious power. It's because authenticity has a way of exposing anything artificial. People who are comfortable with who they are often feel relaxed around a Sigma. They don't feel pressured to impress or compete. But those who rely on deception, manipulation, or constant attention may suddenly feel uneasy without understanding why. The Sigma never has to announce their values or demand respect. Their consistency speaks louder than their words. Over time, people begin to associate them with stability, honesty, and quiet strength. Even after they leave, the atmosphere they created often remains. That is the true beauty of this gift. Real influence doesn't always come from speaking the loudest or standing in the spotlight. Sometimes the greatest impact comes from a life that quietly reflects peace, integrity, and unwavering character. Long after people forget the conversation, they remember how your presence made them feel. Whether you see these qualities as spiritual gifts, quiet strengths developed through life's challenges, or a combination of both, one thing is clear. People like this rarely fit into the world's expectations. They aren't driven by applause, easily distracted by appearances, or willing to sacrifice their peace just to belong. Instead, they move through life with discernment, patience, authenticity, and an inner confidence that can't be borrowed or faked. Perhaps that's why Sigmas are so often misunderstood. Their greatest gifts aren't loud enough to attract instant attention, yet they're powerful enough to shape every decision they make. They know when to walk away, when to stay silent, when to trust their instincts, and when to let time reveal what words never could. These are the kinds of strengths that don't just change a person's life. They change the lives of everyone they encounter. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these spiritual gifts stood out the most, and have you ever experienced any of them in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might encourage someone else who has felt different for most of their life. If you enjoyed this video and want more thought-provoking content like this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching, and until next time, continue protecting your peace, growing in wisdom, and becoming the person you were created to be.